Good afternoon. Happy 6th day of Halloween. I'm Redtastic, and today I'm going to be making a couple of cat collars that are Jack Skellington and Sally inspired. So a couple days back, I made this really cool purse, little wristlet, with this Sally fabric, and this Jack and Sally vinyl. And I liked the vinyl so much that I cut little scraps of it out to put on this little purse that goes inside. So I still had a tiny bit of it left over, and I thought, what else can I make? So I was playing with it the other day, and I sewed two pieces together like that. Well, it's one piece folded in half, and you get Jack and a Sally, and then the coffins with Jack and Sally fabric on them. And then I made this like little charm. And so I was going to be making a puppy collar today, but the two buckles I got yesterday to make the dog collars out of were both too big for the size puppy that I need to make a collar for. So I have bought a bunch of these on Amazon. I just buy a dozen of them, and they're like $15. Cat collars, because my cat Nixie doesn't like the webbing, this nylon stuff. So I usually just take collars like this apart, put grosgrain ribbon, decorative in it, and I just cut this off and throw away the webbing. But today I'm going to use fabric to make the collar part. So this is the cat collars are about 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch opening wide. And my Sally fabric that I have left is on this big, but I have more coming. But for today, I was like, I'll just use pieces of it, it'll be fine. So I'm gonna cut 3-inch wide pieces, 2.5 inch wide pieces of this, sew them together to where I'll have about an 18-inch long piece to make the collar, because that's about how long it needs to be able to fold over and have the slider work. So hi Dan, look, cookies. I love cookies. So I'm going to be cutting 2.5 inch wide strips of this, then sewing them together so that I can have a base that's 18 inches long. And this isn't for a dog, so it doesn't matter that it'll be pieced together. Dog collars need to be able to hold a leash. Cat collars need to be able to break away, because cats jump into things and get in trouble, so their collars need to break away so they don't hurt themselves. So I'm just going to sew these together. Right sides together. Maybe like a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Do the same thing here, because right now we're at about 13 inches, and I need it to be closer to 18. And I'm very scientific whenever cutting and measuring. So this is how it goes. Now what I'm going to do is, everywhere there's the seams, I'm just going to fold it over and strengthen it and sew it down by sewing it down. This one's for Nixie, and my cat Nixie is very skittish, but very graceful. She doesn't jump into things that she can't get out of. She's a cat with cat-like reflexes. Now my daughter's cat, Leo, who I'm gonna make a Jack Skellington inspired collar for, he is not graceful, but he is an awesome cat. The other day he jumped into the washer when I had it open. Thankfully there was no water in it, but he still jumped in. So now we're looking at like about 19 inches long, which is good because we want it to be at least 18, and 19 is at least 18. So in order to make the collar, I'm just gonna, this is 2.5 inches wide. I'm gonna fold it in half once all the way along the length. And then I'm gonna fold those halves in on themselves. Like that. So that they're, half, and then fold over again. So I have 4 thicknesses of fabric. And I could do this on and iron it in place, but since I don't have an iron right here at my sewing machine and I'm not getting up, I'm just gonna fold and sew. And you should be able to manage that. If you can't, then you can always just iron it. I'm just going along, double folded over edge, whole length of it, folding as I go. And just making sure that it's straight and even. And then I'm going to sew along the other edge. It's not just to be symmetrical, but to make it just a little bit more, less flimsy. So make it less flimsy. I'm going to give it 2 rows of stitching across the collar. So with that done, have enough of this fabric to make the collar part. So I'm gonna take this apart. I'm just gonna cut it. I'm gonna start by cutting the bell end. And just go through. It's fabric, so we'll cut it. Save the little D-ring with the bell. And then just push the fabric through the collar, fastener thingy, very scientific. Fold it under, and then we're gonna sew this where it's folded under, so that you don't see this. I didn't cut some of it off because it's icky part. And I'm going to put the D ring with the bell back on it before I sew it, so that it's on like the other collar. Fold over and sew. I'm just leaving enough space so that I don't get too close to all this stuff, because the sewing machine foot won't like that. So I'm just going to give it some space. You want to go over that a couple times, then go across a couple times, go on the other edge a couple times, and then across again a couple times. And that just gives you really strong connection. So you've got it folded over twice. So now you sort of follow what the collar was doing before, and cut that so you could fit through the little slider part where you can tighten and adjust it. Put the fabric through there, take it out, put this one through there, and now we're going to take it out here to here, the other collar, closure, and then we need to cut it off where it's attached here. Just go in, cut that. So the slider is pretty tight in here, so it's a little bit of a pain. But I can take that apart like that, get it to lay flat. Pull the fabric up, because what you need to do is take this fabric, push it through the slider, and then down through it again. And then we're gonna make that sewing little square box with X to keep the collar all together. So right now I'm just trying to get it to where I can lay it flat. I'm going to cut some of this excess off. Should have gone and done this part first and then did the other one, but I could do that next time. So I've got it. It's flush. I'm going to fold this under and sew it to itself. So there. I go to the machine and I'm gonna do the sewing. Back and forth a couple times, go at a diagonal, then back and forth a couple times, do a diagonal, and you should be good. A lot of strings. So Nixie's a smallish cap, so I'm gonna make it tinier. Probably could have gone with a 2-inch instead of 2.5 inch on my fabric because it's a little snug in here, but that's what happens when you don't measure. But I have a collar now for Nixie that is out of the Sally fabric, And then I have this little tag hanger thingy, which I'm going to show you what I did to sew. And then I'm just going to clip this one on, and we're going to call it a day. But I cut, see how there's these hearts? I just cut two that are next to each other all the way across, like that. So I have two. Then I folded them in on each other, and I just cut around the shape of the big heart, and the smaller heart won't be messed up because, well, it's small. But the bigger one could be, so I just cut out the heart shape. And then on my sewing machine, I just sewed through both layers of the vinyl all the way around, just going back and forth across the top a couple times to make sure that, well, it's just vinyl. It has the thread there to keep the sewing, or to keep the little metal loop more secure through the vinyl. I mean, it's not an eyelet, but it's just a temporary little Halloween, Nightmare Before Christmas cat collar. So you get away with it being not as like well put together as something like you'd be wearing. Like, I'm not making shoes. This is just a little tiny charm to go on a cat collar. So that's more than strong enough to hold the little circle, the little metal circle. I think they call that a jump ring. And then I have a lobster claw on it so that I can just clip it next to the bell. And then I've got this cute little Nightmare Before Christmas collar for Nixie. And then I will make one out of this black stripe that looks like Jack's suit for Leo, and they'll have little matching, a little set. So it'll be like costumey and Halloween. So thank you for watching. Happy 6th day of Halloween. And I'll see you next time.